So you have college football's most efficient teams, right? And out here we'll make it even bigger. Look where Michigan's ranked. So this is based on defensive was it expected points against per play, defensive expected points against per play. So this essentially cuts out all the bullshit. And what are the most what are the most efficient teams in college football? So essentially, in the top right quadrant, you have what is considered good offense and good defense. Michigan in this graphic is literally ranked. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. They're ranked essentially 10th. And if you want to put them above Louisville, you can. But they're essentially top 10 in college football's most efficient teams.
Pretty
I'm
strong.
telling you right now, I am a firm, and and I'm letting you know right now, and I know Juju hears me here. Shout out to Maniac too, by the way. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody watching the show. Thank you guys. There's a lot of these graphics since the Washington game where Michigan is literally in like the top 15. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, and I think a lot of people do know this college football season, teams are average. A lot of teams are just average and they're not playing well. And this is one of the reasons, along with the youth of this team being the youngest team in the Big Ten, I think there's reason for freaking optimism. And if Coach Sherrone Moore rallies this team, John, to your point, this graphic tells me we can be a playoff team. We unfortunately dropped the ball against USC. I do believe if we played like we did on Saturday, that game would have been a lot closer. If not, we would have won. That said, we lost. It is what it is. We can't change the past. All we can do is take care of business going forward. And then we have a prime opportunity to win these next 4, like we talked about, John, and then go against Ohio State at home and take care of business and get in the flipping playoffs. And that's where we are, man. You know, like that's where we are. I mean, I think, like I said, I think there should be a little more buy-in on this team, but I can understand a cautious, optimistic approach.
Sure.
But I'm just gonna tell you right now, if this team plays well from this point forward, there's a lot of reason to be excited next year. There's a lot of reason. So yeah, I'll be honest. I'm very encouraged with like not only the way we played, just to close on my end, John. I'm very encouraged with how we played against Washington, but I'm extremely encouraged when you look at the metrics against the other teams in college football where Michigan is ranking. We're essentially a top 15 team in a lot of categories, guys. It's crazy.
It's true. Listen, I think that the nice thing about having the schedule shake out like this, and I'll give you Northwestern might be headed into a Maryland tier of being a bit more respectable. That's fine. I'll grant you that. These games are still confidence builders for a really young team. This is the youngest team in the Big Ten. And we can't forget that. Michigan is the youngest team in the Big Ten. And so even though they're exceptionally talented, a lot of them just had their senior prom 5-6 months ago, right? So, there does need to be a bit of like they need to have some games like against Michigan State, against Purdue, against some of these opponents to just build even more confidence, because the first half of the season was not easy, right? No. You had to go to Norman, Oklahoma. You had to go to Nebraska, to USC. These are difficult opponents. This was not an easy beginning for the youngest team in the Big Ten. But credit to Sherrone Moore to rally the team, to get them right, and to instill some discipline, because clearly he's doing that with Jasper Parker and some of these things that he's now doing on the sidelines more. He seems to be kind of embracing his role a little bit more. And there's another
So wearing a blue collar shirt, John, like your point, rallying the team. Shirt. The team's buying in, John. Like that's to your point, man. Like this was today in the interviews, Look at this. Here's a quote from Trey Williams. People laughed about the shirts and jackets, but this means something here. So good for Sherrone, man. Like honestly, like good for him. I'm telling you right now, man. Like one thing we said, John, and we never wavered. We want to see Sherrone succeed. The team just was not performing well, and guess what? The team knew it, which is why they had a very fiery ass week last week, a very physical practice. They got into coaches, they got into players, they called each other out, they looked in the mirror. And hopefully That was the reality check needed to turn the season in the right direction because it was potentially trending in the wrong way. They didn't show up against USC. They knew that. But that's good. Sometimes you got to get smacked in the face, man. That's what makes sports so great. How do you respond? Teams responding so far.
And we do have to remember, right, that USC did have an extra week to prepare for Michigan. We've got to remember that travel was a factor. I understand that Indiana didn't have that problem going to Eugene to Oregon, but still, right, with a young team added on to that, like we have to acknowledge that there were some factors working, like there was a lot working against Michigan in that USC game.
Yeah.
And it does look like a lot of those issues, a lot of those situations have reversed. And and I will say, especially the second half against Washington, it looked like Michigan football again. It looked like Michigan football, establishing the run, establishing dominance in the trenches, interceptions, classic Michigan football.
Can't hear you, brother. We lost you again. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, to John's point, though, really, Michigan looked like Michigan football. And that was actually the most encouraging sign for me on Saturday.
Yeah.
Is it looked like, John, because we talked about it. I mean, I made a comment. I said, John, we are no longer the bully on the field. You know what I mean? We were getting bullied. USC, Oklahoma. But then, no. Hold on. We play Washington. No, we're still bullies. We still run this shit, right? So the team still got that fight in them. And the truth is, too, they're learning how to win, right? You have a young team. You're learning how to win. Again, there's a lot to be encouraged. Listen, have we made it? No, we haven't made it.
No.
The team's still got to keep climbing, right? You're still climbing. But there's a lot. I think I'm telling you, the more I just think about the Washington game, the way it responded, that the fact you have the locker room still bought in is so critical. Just when you look at the metrics, Michigan compared to the rest of college football, I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, Michigan is up there in a lot of categories. And as a whole, Michigan, all right, the last thing I'll say also on that, Michigan is essentially, which I think if you asked a lot of fans, they would say, no, we're not a complete team. We're not a complete, we're not a complete team. The metrics tell us that Michigan is a top 15 complete team in college football right now. That just goes to show you, though, how the rest of college football is playing. There's just a lot of average ass teams, man. Like, and I think, who was it? There was a comment made, was it Charlie Baker, who said NIL is showing more parity in college football. And that may very well be the case. And that might be why you have college football almost seems a little watered down, to be honest with you. I do think it'll shift. I do expect some elite powerhouses to essentially emerge again. And again, shout out to our rival we hate the most, Ohio State, for maintaining superiority right now. But we're coming for you. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting year for college football. But like we said, John, young team, but a lot of promising things to it.